guys, Dan here with Battlefield Curator. We're going to talk about why you would want to own a classy, antique, but expensive C96. Well, the first reason here is the history behind the development of it. It's a little interesting because it was produced by Mauser, but Paul Mauser didn't really have much to do with it. You see, there were some other employees that worked under him, and they were in development of it. And Mauser was not really interested in the design, but after realizing that he could make some money off military contracts, he ended up getting with those guys and having them finish the design. See, back in 1895, a lot of military forces were still using revolvers. You see, it was the invention of smokeless powder that led to the innovative semi-automatic pistol and rifle designs. There was a lot of benefits to smokeless powder and a semi-automatic pistol. So it was produced in 1896, and that's when they had the first models out there. And ever since then, there's just been so many models and different calibers. A lot of countries used them, and interestingly enough, only one country, and that was China, adopted it as its primary service pistol for military and police. It was one of the first major semi-automatic pistols ever mass-produced and distributed to military forces and civilians. So it was commercially successful. They were produced from 1896 to 1937. So they were around for both world wars. Another reason why you would want a C96 is its innovative design. The design is a little quirky when you look at it now. Back then, it was probably a wonder that, hey, you made this pistol self-loading. That distinctive broom handle looking like grip, a little uncomfortable there, but you know, that's what gives it its innovative design. Interestingly, how they didn't choose something like a revolver hand grip or something, you know. You also look at it and it's got a rear sight that's graduated out to distances that far surpass its capabilities. It also took stripper clips. It's got an internal 10-round magazine, and there were some that had removable magazine. You got ones that were made up for different contracts of different militaries. You got specialized ones like the cone hammer ones that are really collectible. You've got Bolo Mausers, you've got Red 9s and 9mm, you've got the 712, the M712, which was fully automatic. You had ones in carbine configuration with longer barrels, and you know, you had ones that were adapted for different types of military uses. There was also a lot of copies of the C96. And let's go back to the base model C96 with that iconic removable buttstock that also acts as a holster. And the C96 pistol can be stored in there and carried by someone. And if they needed to reach out to further distances, they can attach that buttstock. The upper receiver and barrel assembly was designed to slide back slightly, just slightly, when it was fired. Now, I'm not going to say it's a perfect design. I mean, you had that bolt that came out the back of the pistol and it gets in the way, and that firing pin, it's in there, it has to get struck by the hammer, and when you try to load it with a stripper clip, you can't, it's hard to load single individual rounds by themselves because that bolt will come forward when the follower is pushed down. So you pretty much have to use a stripper clip. So it's a little quirky. And it just feels weird in the hands. Like if you're used to shooting a modern pistol and you shoot a C96, it's a weird feeling. Not a perfect design, but hey, it was a very unique design, and a lot of people look at it and say, hey, that's a really cool looking design, especially for that time. Another reason why some people would like to get their hands on a C96 is because it shoots a very interesting cartridge. It shoots the 7.63 by 25 Mauser. Now, this can be compared to a 7.62 by 25 Tokarev, but you do not want to shoot a 7.62 by 25 Tokarev in a Mauser pistol because it will break the Mauser. The Mauser was not designed to fire that hot of a cartridge, though the 7.63 Mauser, aka the 30 Mauser, was a very hot round for the time, and it probably outmatched most, if not all, the pistol cartridges of that time. So it's very impressive, and that's, you can also say that's part of its design, and another reason why people look at it as a very innovative pistol was because of that cartridge as well. Now, trying to get your hands on 7.63 Mauser is a little difficult, and it can be expensive, but they're out there, and there's still manufacturers that make them. Very innovative cartridge, very innovative. And you know what? We did a penetration test to see how many 1-inch thick pine wood boards a .30 Mauser can penetrate. Got this Bolo Mauser, and how many blocks?
Ah, there we go.
Oh man, there
1,
it is.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inches, or 3, 4, 5, 6.
6.5
inches complete, penetrating into the 7th.
Wow. Now check it out. A lot of people would like to have this pistol because it's one of the few pistols that you can legally put a buttstock on and it not be an NFA item, according to the ATF, because of its antique design. It was designed in the 1890s, and that buttstock, a wooden buttstock holster, was issued with it as standard issue. So when it comes down to it, it's part of the weapon platform, and it's antique. Now, a lot of people would like to go shoot it with a buttstock, and it'd be perfectly normal. Now, I'm not trying to quote the actual rules of the ATF, so be sure to go look them up before you just go buy a buttstock, because you have to use the same type of buttstock that it would have been issued with, the C96. There are reproductions out there, like the one I have, and originals are very expensive, and a lot of them might not be in the best condition or even able to be used on the weapon system because they could cause damage. You pose a risk of damaging any weapon system when you take it out to the range, and especially these older collectibles. So you have to take into consideration that there is that risk, and are you willing to risk devaluing your collectible in that aspect? So make sure you go and check out the ATF rules before you go getting a buttstock. And one reason people really like the C96 and want it in their collection is because you see it all over the movies, you see it on TV shows, you see it in video games, it's in anime. This pistol is so iconic, it's just portrayed in all kinds of different media. And when you look at it, it's so interesting, and it draws attention, and a viewer can watch it and say, wow, that's really cool, So it's iconic going back to the 1800s, 1900s, and even now in the 2000s. A reason here also to collect a C96 is the legacy of the people that used them. You have to think about World War I veterans, World War II veterans, veterans that went overseas from other countries. So many different countries use the C96. A lot of militaries ordered them from the 1800s. You got Turkey, China, Germany. A lot of them used it. The soldiers used them during the war. And then maybe soldiers that liberated different areas of those countries brought back those C96s from war. And some famous people that used the C96, you had Winston Churchill during the Second Boer War, and you had Lawrence of Arabia for a short time there. He had a C96. And this C96 I have here, this also has its own legacy. It was a bringback from a World War II veteran, the late Donald Rotelli from Sickaway, New York. He was with the 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. Now the unit went to North Africa, they went to Italy, they went to France, they went to Germany, and we believe that he brought this back during his time in North Africa because it came with this very unique holster that I've not been able to find another one like it. All right, let's take a closer look at the Mauser C96. That's about 1930s dated, and this interesting holster that was supposedly a German holster. You can see that there's some wear marks here. There's it looks like a stain right there, and a stain right here coming down, which could be blood on this holster. You can kind of see it in here as well, where it runs in here right along there. Interesting, but you could speculate that that was blood, definitely. Interesting, this looks like it was moved from here to here, and this looks like some kind of after or maybe post-war repair, some kind of repair done crudely in the field. You have a little pouch here for stripper clips, and there's a cap here on the barrel end, on the muzzle end. Flipping it over, if you notice these straps here, they look kind of out of place. This one has like a metal wire that went through it, so maybe it was tagged for something. Doesn't look like this was part of the weapon. I mean, this could have been, it could have been part of the straps, but it looks like maybe it was repaired or replaced at some point in time. This stitching here is not the same as all the other stitching that you see on the holster. So this definitely looks like some kind of like repair of some sort. Maybe if Rotelli took it off of the soldier, the German officer, he might have cut the straps here, and maybe he used what was left to stitch it back. Even underneath here, the stitching is kind of crude and not the normal stitching. Well, if you notice over here on the C96, you'll see that there's some wear going on right there. That is from this getting moved over. See how it comes out and it sticks out? Yeah, that was rubbing on the metal there. So most likely somebody moved it over, and it was maybe a field, maybe it was done for the field, or a collector wouldn't do that just because of the wear that you get over here. My only guess is that maybe it popped out of this hole and it kept coming out, so maybe they moved it over. The closest I've come to finding one like this is a German North Africa Corps Luger holster. So yeah, just let me know if you see another one like this one. So yeah, what we think is Donald Rotelli brought this back from North Africa. He got it off of a wounded German officer. And Staff Sergeant Rotelli ended up receiving 4 Bronze Stars for his actions in World War II. Now, he was wounded and he did receive a Purple Heart. Interestingly enough, Audie Murphy was also part of his regiment, the 15th Regiment. I doubt that they probably ever met, but hey, that would be really cool history as well. Now, Mr. Rotelli came back after getting out of the Army. He ended up being a co-owner of Rotelli Bros grocery store in Brunswick. Now, fast forward to 2010, on March 3rd, Donald Rotelli passed away, sadly. Now, I didn't come across it until 2022 when a fellow Army veteran, 33 Whiskey MOS, reached out to a whole bunch of us and was wondering if we wanted this pistol. And I said, hey, you know, I've got a YouTube channel, I document a lot of history, I would be honored to have this pistol in my collection. And so we made an agreement, and he shipped it up here to an FFL, and I think it's just a really interesting piece of history to own. I want to thank you, Cole, for reaching out. As time goes on, we are the stewards of these for such short periods of time compared to the lifetime of these relics. So thanks again. And the kind of like the last thing here why you would want to own a C96 is it's fun. It's fun to take to the range. It's cool. Like, it's fun and it's cool. You go to the range, everyone's like, whoa, what is that? And everyone's like, is that the Han Solo blaster? And so you get all these Star Wars comments. You get like Lawrence of Arabia. You get World War I, World War II comments. There's a lot of different, you know, conversation sparks. It's not every day that you see these at the range or at a public range. Speaking of the range, we took it out to the range and we just kind of did some plinking with it. Yeah, I'm not the best shot, and you know, just single-handed, but I made it on target. Now, 25 yards with the buttstock and standing unsupported, I did a little bit better. But I was rapid firing it, and it's pretty fun to rapid fire. Well, definitely an enjoyable piece to take to the range. And one thing about the C96 is that because they've been so popular for so long, they're super expensive. You're looking at around $3 grand. They're not cheap, and you know, it's just one of those things where if you have one, you probably don't shoot it too often. They're hard to like take apart and clean. They can be a little finicky sometimes. The parts, if you have a part that goes bad and you try to get another part for it, they were all hand fitted when they were manufactured, you know. So trying to find a spare part or an extra part, you might find a part that fits and you might find a part that doesn't fit. So you might have to do some different modifications to make that part fit on that part, you know. So you got to be careful with that as well. And parts are getting scarce as well for these. And if you see these coming into the country, could be in pretty rough condition these days. So Mauser produced 1 million of these pistols, and there's not very many left, and a lot of them are in collections and museums. So that would be another reason why you're going to find them at very high valuations. So super collectible, super historic, and just fun to have, fun to own. They're just hard to get a hold of. But for the most part, if somebody just gets a C96 for their collection, they'd be satisfied. Just anyone. With that being said, are you looking for a C96? Do you have a C96 already? Do you have multiple C96s? I think these are really cool pistols, and you know, they are definitely a very unique and historical design. They just have a really short-lived but interesting part of history. Is it even worth it to get a C96 these days? Let me know in the comments section. Well, as always, be sure to learn history and curate history. Pulverize that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Make it a great day.